we finally have a new Volume 1 of Black Panther. It has been so long. Now, I enjoyed Ta-Nehisi Coates' run of Black Panther, which was the previous one, but it was very, very confusing. There was a story somewhere in there, but every single time it kind of got going, it would like just throw just these random bits into it, and it suddenly become much more confusing than it needed to be. I don't know what it is with that kind of trend, because unfortunately this story actually suffers from a bit of that as well. For the most part, it is a straightforward story where Black Panther's best friend has been murdered and he is trying to find the culprit who did it. He goes through various different Wakanda outposts that are situated throughout the world, trying to find out who these killers are and why they've done what they've done. I really, really enjoyed reading this. It was a breath of fresh air. As I said, it wasn't complicated. It wasn't something it didn't need to be. But my main problem with it was, this is 5 issues, right? And the 3rd issue doesn't really focus on the story at hand. Instead, you see this you see Bast, and then you see this shape-shifting kind of worm kind of thing. And then it's about this kid called Toshin, and he's like walking along with this worm, and the worm's kind of doing all these different things in these different areas. And Toshin's like, yes, my people, we are Wakandan, we are doing this. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're doing this, but what exactly is this? I have no idea what you're talking about or what you're doing. The final bit of it made sense with like where he ended up in the end, and it tied into the actual main story itself, but it didn't really tie in a way that actually made sense. If you had that story right at the end of this collection, it would have made a lot more sense, because you're not reading like a complete story and then reading like a side story. The side story is in the middle for some reason, and like it's not referenced after that point at all, so it just doesn't make sense. Aside from that, we got some Avengers stuff with him having T'Challa having a back and forth with Cap. That was interesting. Kind of would like a bit more of that kind of stuff, but this is much more focusing on T'Challa and being more of a solo series, and not focusing on like being a galactic empire and stuff like that. So it's toned down quite a lot. It's more focused on Wakanda being a government as opposed to being led by a king. That is where the core of the story kind of takes you, and it's kind of trying to develop into what it is going to be like in the end. It doesn't wrap up in this. There will be a volume 2 of this which will carry on the story. It's left with a bit of a cliffhanger. It all seems like it's all revealed and everything makes sense, but then suddenly like it doesn't, and then all these things are happening, and it's like, okay, well, right. But it's a good jumping on point. I enjoyed it. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5 stars.